Yo, this is Man at Arms with Beats and Tech. Glad to be back. Sorry for the long hiatus, but I had to take this time to maybe do a little soul searching, I guess you want to say. Hold on, let me take these headphones off. I don't necessarily need the headphones on to talk because I don't need to hear myself because it's actually recording now. I recorded this twice with no audio. So this is take number 3. So hold your horses. Let me take these headphones off because I don't need them. All right, cool. All right, so again, this is Man at Arms, Beats and Tech. And I wanted to create this video because number one, I haven't had the opportunity to do videos of late. Well, first let's start with this. First of all, to all the people who've actually still been watching the videos that I've had on the channel, I'd like to say thank you. I appreciate you so much. You are actually a big encouragement to me actually making videos in general. I haven't been on here, like I said, in a minute, but I still get not compliments, but I've got some compliments, but I still get comments made on the videos that I've actually shared. And that to me says a whole lot, because sometimes when you make these videos, you really don't know if what you're saying makes any sense to anybody other than yourself. So when I make them and I'm just like, what they say, go with God, I'll make the video and I'll put it on the internet. And if somebody likes it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But more times than not, I've had a lot of positive comments. Or I had a couple comments. They weren't necessarily negative. They was like, I ain't feeling this one. Not necessarily me, but what I was talking about as far as like the product or whatever it was. I think one of them was Kid Album. But then I got another comment about Kid Album that somebody really dug and gave them a little bit more better understanding about the product in general. So that's cool. And I appreciate everybody who listens or likes the videos, who actually listens and watches them and gets something from it. Because again, sometimes you just don't know. You do a video and you don't know if you did a good job or not. You think you did until somebody says, hey man, the music was too loud. So whatever. So again, I appreciate you. So my next thing I like to say is I've taken some time away to kind of do, I guess, what you want to call a little soul searching. Not necessarily, man, should I be doing these YouTube videos or not? That's not what it is. It's more so based around, I guess you could say, like life choices or life events. You get to a point in your life and you're wondering, like, what am I really doing? I work in IT. I work for a managed service provider. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term. Basically, in short, what that is our company, or the company that I work for, we handle IT services for companies who don't necessarily either, number one, don't really want to pay somebody on staff full time to do the work, so they contract that out to us, or number two, they do have a full-time IT staff and they may be deficient in some areas, and or they just need help doing certain things because they have other things to tend to. So they may have other things on site and they say, okay, we don't need you guys to necessarily come here unless it's a big project, but we want you guys to help out on the back end. So if we have huge network issues, help desk related issues or whatever. So my thing at the company that I work for, the department that I handle, we handle cybersecurity. We handle backup and recovery service, data recovery or data security, network compliance and regulation. We also handle like firmware maintenance for firewalls. We handle a lot of different things just in my department. And one thing, I don't know if anybody's out there that's ever worked for a managed service provider, you wear a lot of hats sometimes. So you deal with a lot of different things. So that's what I do full time. So I say that to say that you work a job on a regular basis and you forget about some of the things that you actually know how to do because your job may not actually require you to utilize those skill sets. And I noticed that I have a lot of different skills that have basically lied dormant within me that God has given me the ability to do and or pick up. I pick up a lot of things real easy and sometimes easier than most people. And that's just how it's been throughout my life. I haven't had a whole lot of training in a lot of different areas. I have a few certifications for the things that I do on a regular basis dealing with my job. But at the same time, a lot of other things that nobody's ever trained me to do, I just know how to do them. It was just kind of easy and kind of natural for me to pick up. So that's just one thing. So I started to notice those things and I'm like, man, what can I do to kind of utilize those skills and the skill set that God has given me? Some of that has to do with web development, some application development, deploying like software as a service things to the cloud, like PHP scripts, or just a lot of different things that deal with that. And or the ability to just figure out things and come up with solutions for those things. And that's something that I've been able to do for years. But like I said, my job doesn't require me to utilize that. So then that led me to, and I don't know if you realized that or noticed that in the last video that I did, when I said, Biz and Tech. And I was like, yeah, and I'll talk about that at a different time. So I guess today is the different time. And the Biz and Tech aspect came from more so, I guess, like some conversations that I had with my wife about some things, and just saying, hey, you know, maybe I need to get back into some of those things that I know how to do and actually find a way to utilize them, find a way or create some type of business that I can utilize those skill sets. So that brought me to creating something called Biz and Tech. Beats and Tech was created out of my love for music, but also my love for technology. When I started this, I was in the guise, or should I say, in that frame of mind where I'm thinking, well, maybe I can do some stuff as a content creator or whatever, and utilize beats, which is, at the time I was really doing like a lot of different, I was doing music. Music has always been my first love, it's always been in my family. So I was doing instrumentals for, like, you know, hip hop or whatever. And that's why the music that plays in the videos, those are basically my creations or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I can bridge that with technology. Cool. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, what can I do now to turn that into maybe a business? How can I use some of the things that I know how to do and move from the creator aspect and more so into the, I won't say service, but providing a service for people who actually need it. So that brought me into Biz and Tech. So the first thing that I was looking at with Biz and Tech, I'm like, okay, I got into looking at digital business cards, which is basically NFC technology, programming that to, you know, whatever. You're basically using that to point to a website or a link tree or whatever, a landing page or whatever. So I came up with a bunch of these. I came up with a bunch of NFC cards that basically like credit cards or whatever, and sold some of those. I'm like, I don't know about this. It's cool, but, you know, let's broaden that out. So then I got into studying more about AI, studying more about chatbot creation, and then I got back into doing some web development. So then I created a website, bizandtechstl.com, which has some of those services on there. Because the idea at that time was, all right, well, maybe I can use this to kind of bridge the gap and add tech into businesses that are not really techy. There are a lot of ways that businesses can use technology, but not necessarily get into like full-on tech stuff, but just have something to help lessen your load. For instance, the video that I did on here, like Spark Receipts, being able to share a tool like Spark Receipts where people can actually use this tool, scanning receipts, to help them organize their invoices and receipts that they get from vendors, which in turns will help already have their stuff digitized and tallied. So when they got to do their taxes or just having records, it's in a digital format and it's easy for you to access. So I'm like, okay, something like that, that's cool. That fits into what I'm trying to do. So, all right, okay, let's maybe take it a step further. And I found it's like a business course, more so a crash course, provided by a entity here in St. Louis called Square One. It's called Square One. Square One is basically, and I don't know if they're a nonprofit, but they kind of operate like a nonprofit because they provide a lot of services for people who want to either start small businesses or already have small businesses and actually need a little propulsion to get to where they're trying to go. So my wife took their course. They actually have two courses. One is like a 4-week crash course, which is the one that I took. And then they have like a 10-week or 8-week, I think it's like a 10-week course that she took, which is a lot more extensive. So I took the first one, the crash course one, because that one helps you kind of narrow down exactly what you're trying to do. And my thing was, well, maybe this will help me narrow down what I want to do to see if it's actually feasible in terms of like an actual business idea. So I said, okay, I'm gonna jump in there. That's the first reason. Number two, I'm thinking also, I wanted to be in an environment where there are a lot more people who are thinking like how I'm thinking. I don't have a lot of time or a lot of free time to like go to networking events and things of that nature and be around a bunch of people or business people or entrepreneurs or whatever because of my schedule. I work the standard, 8 to 5 schedule Monday through Friday. after that, it's like whatever. So a lot of times any event is already taking place that I've missed out on it. So I'm like, this will be a perfect way to me get into that environment, even for as brief as it was. It's only 4 weeks. So, and I think the last thing was too, just being in the place to, I don't say hold myself accountable, but also kind of make myself see a little more clearly what I'm actually doing. And I say that to say, number one, I got into class and I noticed that I already had a leg up in terms of like what I already knew, based upon the fact that me and my wife already had we established our first LLC almost 20 years ago. Most people didn't even know how to do that. And that's something that we did years ago. We already knew how to make contacts with certain vendors and wholesalers and things like that. That's stuff that we learned on our own. We didn't go to any course or whatever when this stuff started. A lot of this stuff wasn't even on the internet, at least not easily to access or whatever. And there definitely weren't any like classes like this, at least not around here. So that was the first thing I noticed. But the other thing too, and from that I noticed too, because I had an IT entity that I had started years ago called Divergent Communications, and I called that a quote unquote business at the time. But going through this class made me realize the deficiencies that I had in terms of my business, which was like, I didn't have a back end. I didn't have an invoicing system. I was using Square, but it wasn't organized in a way to where I could bill hourly or basically make what I'm doing a lot more trackable and transparent. And during the class, I actually had an incident with, and this was another thing that I realized that I had a leg up on too. I already had some existing customers through the first entity that I'm carrying over. So I had an incident or two while I'm attending the class with 2 of my clients because of this particular thing that I'm talking about, where I didn't have a back end. I didn't have a way to track, time spent on certain projects. Because I was just doing like one-off projects with them or whatever at the time. And when the bill hit them, they were looking at me like, bro, how we get to this number? And I guess the questions really came because in the process of doing this, I started adding some tracking for one of the clients, but not the second. I did it for both. And once they saw what was being spent, then questions arose because they were like, well, I thought this was done, or I thought we did this a year ago. So it created questions, but it also provided answers for me in terms of what I needed to do to be more professional, what I needed to do to be more organized, what I needed to do to actually say I'm an actual business that you can actually take seriously versus somebody that looks at this as a side hustle but calls it a business. So that was the other part of me being in the class that I realized. So long story short, I went through the class and I met the lady who was basically the teacher of the class and or mentor. Same lady that my wife had. She didn't have her when she took her class, but she got cool with her. So everybody in the class had scheduled these one-on-one kind of breakout meetings where they go through like business model canvas and all this kind of stuff. So I went through my first one with her like way after the class was over with, because I didn't realize how fast her time was going to, kick up once people said, hey, it's open, you can sign up. So my sign-up was like after the class was long over with. So during our first meeting, she was like, well, because part of the business model canvas thing was more so like, who are your customers? What are the kind of service they need and all this kind of stuff? Well, based upon, number one, I had the prior experience from dealing with clients already. 2 of my main clients were home healthcare providers. So that's the first thing. Secondly, while working at my current job, a lot of clients that I dealt with, not currently, but I say maybe 5 to 8 years ago, they were dealing in the senior living space. So you combine home health care and senior living, those people are very similar in terms of what they need, what they don't have, and what you can provide to solve all of their problems. And that was the thing that I learned from my own experience, either from work or what I did on my own. And she was like, well, why don't you lean into that? And I told her, I said, well, I've already been thinking about doing that. I said, back in September of 2024, God kind of woke me up in the middle of the night and said, hey, why don't you register this domain? And the domain he wanted me to register was ithealthcenter.com, which I already knew what that was when it was told. So I got up in the middle of the night and I did what he said do. I registered the domain ithealthcenter.com. So, and I created a website real quick, and I didn't do anything with it. And I left it there, and I got sidetracked, and it's probably, was doing a bunch of other stuff. And before I know it, I left the site dormant, and the site ended up getting hacked, and ended up having to take the site down. So when she said that, she was like, well, why don't we, she said, what I want you to do is basically pour all your, and this is not her verbatim, but basically she told me to pour all my efforts into building that out, which was the home healthcare thing or whatever. So, excuse me. So that's what I actually been doing for the last, that was probably in March, I think, or April. It was in April when we had a meeting. So for the next 30 days or so, I just built it out. I built out the back end. I started building out my documentation for, my packages that I'm offering. I tried to do everything that I could to fill all those gaps that she was talking about, that she had mentioned in our conversation. And I had another meeting with her. And from that point, she was really, I guess, impressed with what I had done and what I was really looking at the time in terms of like trying to do. And she really was like, well, what's standing in your way now to actually make this happen? I'm like, me, nothing else. I don't need, there are things that I don't have covered just yet, but I'm like, this is to the point where now it's like you become, what is it? Paralysis analysis. What is it called? Paralysis by analysis. Yeah. Where basically you thinking too much on something and you're not ready. You're not even going to move on it because all of this stuff is in your head. And I'm like, I'm done with that part. I'm like, what I don't know, I'll figure out. And what I don't figure out, I can find somebody to help me figure it out. Plus you got ChatGPT that can help you too. So that's where I'm at, folks. So right now, the new deal for me is ithealthcenter.com. And what that is basically I'm trying to look at a niche of that business, home healthcare, because what I found, nobody covers that. Nobody covers home healthcare in terms of like tech services. The company that I work for don't touch home healthcare because it's a small thing. But there are like hundreds of businesses that are out there, and I'm just talking about in St. Louis. I probably found like 300-400 businesses that are home healthcare. And that's in St. Louis. That ain't even in like the smaller town or smaller cities in St. Louis or smaller cities in Missouri or Kansas City, Missouri, which is on the other side of the state, or Kansas, which is Kansas City, Kansas, and that's a whole nother area within the Kansas City metro area. So if I can just slowly get into those markets and slowly work that, that's gonna look I think that's gonna look like something awesome, but I'm at the point now where I'm just trying to find people just so I can have a conversation, because I said all I need to do is have a conversation with people to get them to understand what they actually need and how it can benefit them. And I don't know how many companies that I work for, not just on the stuff that I've done on my own, but just professional companies that I deal with in my current occupation, who don't even see the values of having stuff backed up. And it's amazing to me when you're living and working in the digital realm and you don't have a back end that's covering your back end. So, and then stuff fails and stuff crashes, and I've literally seen companies have to go out of business and or change names due in part to them not having a backup or a reliable backup that actually says, hey, if this crashes, I can restore this back. We just recently had 2 clients that I worked with had ransomware on one of their servers, and luckily they had backup, so we could restore to a point further back where they didn't have the ransomware, and we could rebuild things out from that point. So for me, it's just getting people to understand the practicality of actually having something to protect themselves. From that point, then we can get into more specific things of, hey, what do your workstations look like? Hey, what are your, if you got a server, or how are you guys actually managing your data? How are you guys sharing like data on your network? Like I work with companies, they didn't even have network shares. So I'm like, what are you guys doing? You handing flash drives around. That's weird in 2025, but people don't know what they don't know. So that is part of the reason why I created IT Health Center. Yeah, it's a financial purpose in everything, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, we gotta do better with what we're doing if you say that you're actually doing business. So that's where I'm at, folks. I'm focusing on that, but at the same time, I want to get back into actually providing the videos that I do on this channel, and some of that will be based around some of the IT Health Center stuff, only because of the simple fact that they intersect, they cross over like that. So yeah, I wanted to share this quick update with you guys. Sorry I started rambling a little bit, but there's a lot of moving parts in all of this, but I wanted to kind of share these things with you. So, but yeah, I'll be back. Stay tuned, keep it locked. I'm glad my mic actually worked this time around, because yeah, I talked 2 times before and nothing happened. There was no audio, so that was disheartening because I had to do this over. So, and I had some other things that I had mentioned that actually sounded better, but they got lost in the ether of no sound. So it is what it is. So with that, folks, I'm gonna get out of here. This is Man in Arms with Biz and Tech, and thanks for checking out the videos in the past. And thank you. Like this video if you like what I was talking about, and if you're interested in anything. I don't just do stuff with home healthcare. That's just kind of my primary focus right now. But IT services is IT services, regardless of who the entity is when it all boils down to it. I'm trying not necessarily to get into a niche where I'm dealing with specific things for home health care. I want to keep it generalized. That way we can keep it more safe in terms of where I work in, because there's some things that I don't know about that industry that I'm still kind of learning. So I don't want to get too focused in on specifics. I want to keep it generalized, because most importantly, most people don't even have the general stuff, let alone the specific stuff. So we're going to keep it general and keep it moving. So, all right, people, thanks for listening. I appreciate you all, and I'll holler at you next time. All right, peace.